Previously on the Skip and Josh podcast.
So I'm going back and forth 17 million times. I finally got to the 10 songs. And by the way, I didn't rank them in order from 1 to 10. I just have the 10. Don't ask me to rank them because that's going to take me another 7 hours.
You didn't even rank them.
I was up till 1 in the morning doing this. I needed to sleep. I just woke up 10 minutes ago.
The Skip and Josh podcast is on now.
Hello.
Hey, Skippy.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning. What's going on?
Well, it's Saturday morning, bright and early. I'm drinking a cup of coffee.
That's a huge cup of coffee. That's not really 1 cup. That's like 8 cups.
It's not full all the way. It's a 16-ounce cup.
A normal cup is 8 ounces, right?
Yeah, depends. This is the grande size at Starbucks. It even says it on the mug itself.
That's interesting. I have a friend whose last name is Grande. I should get him that cup for his birthday.
You should. So, yeah, it's funny because I have like millions of mugs in my cupboard, right?
Yeah.
But I could throw them all out because I only drink coffee from this mug. It's the only one.
Well, why would you need more than one mug?
This morning, I took it out of the dishwasher before the dishwasher was finished just so I could get it. Even though there's 20 other mugs in ready for me, waiting, calling me, filling up
Before
with
the
coffee.
dishwasher was finished, you purposely took it out.
Yeah. Well, then I rinsed it up and, got it ready myself.
That's a little extreme.
I can only drink from this cup. My wife thinks I'm nuts, but I think I'm not the only person that has this kind of setup, no?
Well, I mean, really...
You're not a coffee guy. So you don't...
No, and I have about 6 mugs in my apartment, and I don't use any of them.
So we're actually pretty similar in that regard.
But why would you need more than 1 mug? Why would anybody need more than 1 mug?
Maybe 2. One's in the dishwasher, you have a backup.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So what's going on this week? Happy Thanksgiving to all our American listeners.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, to our Canadian listeners, happy Thursday.
Right.
It was.
You know what I was thinking about the other day? This has nothing to do with anything. But I just thought about this the other day. Apple is quite a huge company, right?
The biggest company in the world.
Is it the biggest company in the world?
They're the biggest company in the world that's not an oil company.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the reason I bring this up is because what's interesting is in my house, there is not 1 Apple product.
I thought you had an iPod.
I gave it to my dad.
So you have a BlackBerry, a Samsung, and nothing else.
I have a Dell laptop.
Yeah. You're amazing.
I have not 1 Apple product. How many people do you know have no Apple products in their house?
I don't know any personally, to be honest. But I'm sure there are, have you seen the new ads for Samsung on TV? They're basically making fun of all the people waiting in line to get the new iPhone.
I haven't seen that ad.
Yeah. Basically by saying, why are you waiting in line? You could just get the Samsung. It's always been better.
I don't know that there's anything good or bad about the Apple. I'm not dissing them. I'm just saying I don't have any Apple products. I may one day have one, but I don't right now.
I bought my wife an iPhone for her birthday.
I heard this story.
She doesn't like it.
But does she use it?
She uses it, but she still says that she doesn't like it. And she still says, I told you the story, right? We went for dinner the night before.
No, I don't think you told me this
The night before her birthday, we went for dinner. Now, her phone that she had before was a piece of junk. It barely worked. Mm-hmm. She could only call on speaker, otherwise she couldn't hear people. She couldn't connect to Wi-Fi, otherwise the phone would crash. She had no data, so it was basically like a useless piece of junk.
Paperweight.
Yeah, paperweight. So we're at dinner the night before with a bunch of people, and she takes out her phone because she's texting, one of our kids. And then someone's like, oh, your phone. They start talking about her phone. She's like, I love my phone. I would never trade my phone in for anything else. And then here I am sitting next to her, just looking up at the sky like, oh my God, tomorrow morning I'm giving her this brand new iPhone. and now here she's telling the whole world and everybody that could hear that she doesn't want a new phone. She's perfectly happy with this paperweight that she has. So I gave her the iPhone. She was very happy because it's more the thought that counts, but she's very nervous about it, right? And she's like, she just doesn't like it. She's so used to like not being able to do anything that she doesn't want to do anything. She only goes on one app.
The Weather Network.
Yes, the Weather Network. That's all she gets. So, like, you know, like, it's funny because, you know, this is supposed to be a show about sports. We're not talking about sports at all. But, you know, most people, like, when we were younger, we got our news by the newspaper, right? Mm-hmm. And then later on, we got our news by watching maybe TV news or listening to the radio, right?
Yeah.
So now, like, I don't get the newspaper, and I only listen to the radio in the car a little bit. But now I think a lot of people are like me. They get their news from the internet. So I find out about things because people put it on Facebook or on Twitter. That's how I find out about things that are going on in the world. Someone tweets about it. Someone posts about it. Now, my wife's not on any social media. So she has a bit of a problem because we don't get the newspaper. She doesn't watch TV news. She doesn't listen to news on the radio. So how is she going to find out about what's going on in the world? She has one source of news. The weather news. It's the section within the Weather Network app that has weird weather kind of related news or geography or whatever. You know, so just like yesterday, she tells me some random factoid, some perfectly weird random thing that I don't even remember what it was. And I'm like, how did you know about this? She's like, the weather news, of course. You know, like, where else would I find out stuff like this? So,
And yet about a month ago when my mom, who lives in the same city as your wife, by the way, my mom told me about this weather bomb that was coming. You had no clue what that was.
No idea.
You asked your wife about it, and she had no clue what that was. And you would think that if she gets her news from the Weather Network, she would have known about the weather bomb.
I asked her about the weather bomb. She's like, what are you talking about? I go, look it up. It was, sure enough, it was there, but she paid no attention to it because she just looks at the forecast, and when the forecast says, you know, like, you know, it's rain or whatever, like, she didn't think it was going to be a big problem, you know. Mm-hmm. She apparently she knows more than, you know, the weather news.
The meteorologists.
Yeah. So do you want to talk about any sports related stuff? Or should we just talk about the weather?
Hold on. There is something I do want to bring up. I've actually been waiting for this day for a long time. I'm glad you reminded me.
Okay, good. Go ahead.
Because you said, I think it was the first week of the NHL season, you said that it's too early to make any snap judgments, and you have to wait till everyone has played 20 games.
Well, let's do that.
Everyone has played 20 games now, first of all. Secondly, I didn't even know this. I've been following the NHL for I don't know how many years, and I just found this out this week.
Yeah.
That whatever the standings are on Thanksgiving Day, the American Thanksgiving Day.
I heard this week.
Do not change very much between Thanksgiving Day and the end of the regular season.
As God is my witness, I thought turkeys could fly.
Well, it goes along with the Bob McKenzie 20 rule because everybody's played now. I'm looking at the standings right now, 21 to 23 games.
Right.
So we're roughly a quarter of the way in.
Right.
We are. I don't know. Like right now, Tampa's the best team in the league.
Right.
David Alter, our NHL insider, came on to preview to tee up the NHL season with us, and he told us Tampa Bay. That was his pick, right?
Yeah.
He loved them.
Well, he knows his stuff.
Yeah. I mean, Toronto's still right up there. I mean, they kind of been in the news because they've kind of been hot and cold, right? Mm-hmm. They've had some hot streaks, they've had some cold streaks, but they're right up there. They're actually only 3 points behind Tampa. Well, they've got a couple more games played, but they're right there, you know. Other than that, what's interesting is in the East you have New Jersey and the Islanders, teams that nobody really gave any respect to, that are in the thick of things. Mm-hmm. And then other teams like, you know, the Canadians, who are just a joke, actually. So,
well, the Canadians and the Oilers are definitely the two biggest disappointments in the NHL this year, without a doubt.
Well, I think number one, definitely the Oilers, you know, considering how far they went in the playoffs.
And they're actually doing worse than the Canadians somehow.
Yeah. No, the Oilers season and the Canadian season ended, you know, around the same time. The Oilers went further in the playoffs, but, you know, when the Canadian season ended, it like we said at the time, it was doom and gloom in Montreal, right? Mm-hmm. Everyone was like, oh, pointing out everything wrong with the team. Whereas the Oilers were like, okay, this is just the tip of the iceberg. You know, we've hit step one. Next year, we're going to do better. And then the year after, we're going to do better, right? Because with all our young talent. And they're terrible. They're really terrible. They only have 18 points, you know, which is like Canadians have 19, you know, like, and they suck, right? So I don't know what's wrong with Edmonton. I don't know if they're going to fire their coach. There's a lot of trade rumors happening right now, especially revolving around Cam Talbot, the goalie, because he's been their big weak spot. I don't know. I really don't know what the solution is for the Oilers, you know?
What's interesting is the Oilers' weakness is goaltending and the Canadiens' weakness is goal scoring. So if the Habs were to ship Carey Price to Edmonton,
Yeah.
not going to happen in a million years, but that would immediately make the Oilers a Stanley Cup contender.
Well, not if Carey Price has a sub 900 save percentage like
That's
he's
true.
had.
That's true.
But, I mean, I think we're at the point where I don't know if the Canadians are even looking about trading Price, but they can't. It's impossible. His contract is too huge. Who's going to take that contract?
it's actually not that bad. I mean, it's not great, but it's not.
But
it's not like Roberto Luongo bad.
It's gonna be in 5 years from now when he's like 35 or whatever he's gonna be, and he's gonna suck, and he still has 5 years left. You know, when he's 38, he's still gonna be making $10 million.
Yeah, but by then, $10 million is going to be
Won't
like
be
the
a
league
lot.
average. I'm exaggerating, obviously.
No, but you're right. Like by then, the salaries are gonna go up. You're right, and everybody's gonna be making now. Like good players make $5 million, right?
Right.
Right, and great players make 10, and then everyone else in between. But like 5 years from now, everything's gonna go up. Right?
Everything's going to go up.
But I mean, you also have some real big underachievers in the West: Anaheim, Chicago, San Jose. All these teams are on the outside looking in right now. Dallas was everybody's darling. I kind of blew that off right away. My son was like, Dallas is going to be great this year. I'm like, no. I don't believe that hype at all. And
Well-
they're average.
No, but it makes sense that they're good because if you recall, they had a really bad year last year, but they were very good 2 years ago.
They were,
So last
but-
year could have been the anomaly, and they went and added Ben Bishop and Alexander Radulov. So why wouldn't they be good this year?
Because Ben Bishop can't stay healthy, right? And that's the same problem that they're having. So
Meanwhile, they're in a playoff spot right now.
no, I know they are. But
But what I wanted to talk about was the Vegas Golden Knights because remember you said to me after where they were 8-1 or something to start the season,
yeah.
you asked me, are they for real?
Yeah.
Are they actually good? Are they going to make the playoffs? And
might.
and friend of the show, Sean from Pittsburgh, I
Said no
spoke
way.
to him around the same time, and he said that Vegas is not good and they're not going to make the playoffs. But if the rule of thumb is wait till Thanksgiving Day and see where everything stands,
Yeah.
they're in first in the Pacific right now.
Well,
so,
the thing is, they got off to a great start, right?
yes.
So you're like, oh, it's an anomaly. It's all the hype around the team. Everyone's jacked up. The players are over delivering, right? Because the excitement and everything. But we're past that now, right?
Yeah,
and they did have their dip where everyone said, okay, now they're going to be the real Vegas Golden Knights. Even the Canadians blew them out, right? But when you look at their record, they're 6-3-1 their last 10.
And they've won 4 in a row.
Right? If they just keep playing, a little bit above 500, they're going to make it.
They're going to make it because 16 teams make the playoffs.
And think about how many games have been played with their fourth string goalie.
I know. That's
Right?
crazy.
Right? Now, what's interesting about the Vegas Golden Knights is they're 9-1 at home this year.
Maybe there's some sort of advantage. I know what you're going to say, I think.
Now, you know what the advantage is, right? Teams come to Las Vegas. They're out they're out with strippers in their hotel room till 4 a.m, and then they got to play the next day. This is what's happening, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe that's
I
part
mean,
of the strategy.
So if you're George McPhee, the GM,
Yeah.
maybe you have like a team of people in your staff that are like the hospitality people that are like, we're gonna meet and greet the road team when they get to the airport. We're gonna show them a good time. We're gonna we're gonna make sure they're treated well, right?
At AJ McCarron Airport?
AJ McCarron.
It's not AJ, but it is
No,
McCarron
but it is
Airport.
McCarron Airport. So like maybe they're making sure that the people are showing the road teams a good time, to get the advantage, because certainly it's working with their 9-1 record, right?
That and the fact that teams come in and say, oh, this is an expansion team.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
don't really have to play our best. We'll just show up and we should win this game. And then next
there's-
thing you know, they're down in the third period and they lose.
There's definitely some that's more true than what I just said about all the partying.
Actually, I'm
Teams are
not so
definitely-
sure. Your theory could be true too.
Teams are definitely taking them lightly, and exactly that. Before they know it, they're down in the third period and it's too late to come back, right? I'm sure that's happened a million times.
judging by how they drafted in the expansion draft, and you even said to me in the summer that they didn't want to have a good team because they wanted to get high draft picks next year and the year after and build that way.
Yeah.
This is ruining their plan.
Yes, it is. Because I felt that, okay, so like who's their big guys? Marc-Andre Fleury, James Neal. You know, they have some guys that are attractive to other teams, right? So like, for instance, James Neal. You know, I'm sure the plan was we're going to draft James Neal and we're going to flip him for a second-round draft pick or a first-round draft pick at the trade deadline to a contender. But now, if they're a contender, what happens?
I say you go for it.
Well, I say you go for it too because they're in a unique situation in that it's a non-hockey market, right? It's a new market. People don't know about hockey. What better way to make a first step in your community, in your city, and build excitement around your team than being in the playoffs, right?
Agreed.
It's, you know, they were going to be at risk for not being in the playoffs for 5 years, and then maybe fans start to lose interest, right? And they have to figure out ways to keep fans interested. Bam, you know, year one, you're in the playoffs, you know, who knows what kind of season ticket base they start to build, right? And fan base they start to build. So, I mean, that's the NHL. Look, in Montreal, I don't want to talk about the Habs.
Okay, we'll skip that.
Phil from Semi-Intellectual Musings tweeted to me this week because he listened to our last episode. Mm-hmm. He found it funny that I went on a 5-minute rant about the Habs, and then after it was all done, I was like, I don't want to talk about the Habs.
I know. I alluded to that during the show. I just was letting you talk. Then you said, I don't want to talk about this. I said, okay.
They're a hot mess. They're the biggest hot mess. When you look at all the stats, it's really quite pathetic. They're basically last in the league.
And here everything. You go talking about them again.
I'm a passionate fan.
It's interesting that so only now that Price is coming back, only now do they tell us that he got injured in the last game that he played, because they never told us that before.
Oh, very secretive.
And apparently he got injured in the warm-up of that game and yet played the entire game. And I don't know how that works exactly.
It's a very strange organization when it comes to divulging information, because in some situations they're quite open about things. But when it comes to Carey Price, it's like there's so much secrecy. You know, it's ridiculous.
But if you have an injury that apparently is bad enough that is preventing you from playing, and you have a backup goaltender whose sole purpose is to back up the starter, why wouldn't they use him? And then Price, if you recall, had a really bad game that game. I remember watching the highlights. I'm like, wow, he's just awful. I didn't know he was injured at the time, and I'm not sure if that's just an excuse, like, for why he played so poorly, but I don't know.
You know, there's some players that get injured or they have minor injuries and they say, we're going to play through it. I want to win. We need a win tonight. I'm going to play through it. And some players can do that. But I think with Carey Price, like, when he's hurt, he's no good. You know, any kind of minor thing, it's very hard for him to play through.
You know who he's like.
Who?
He's like an orchid.
He's an orchid. He's Steven Strasburg.
It needs to be sunny in 75 for him to play well.
Sunny in 75. If it's not sunny in 75, it's no good.
And
right?
It's never sunny in 75 in a hockey rink.
No, that's right.
By the way, speaking of teams that are surprising or underperforming, so it's no surprise that the Canadiens' goal differential is minus 26.
Yeah.
There are a couple teams that are worse than that. But one team that's actually not bad, but they have a goal differential of minus 20, is Pittsburgh.
It's shocking. When I saw their goal differential, I mean, they're just playing 500 hockey, which tells you that...
But they're just on the cusp, like, you know.
Tells you that they've won a lot of close games, and when they lost, they really lost.
Well, you know, they lost one game 10-1, and then I think they lost another game 8-1.
Well, there's the minus 20 right there, right?
Right there, yeah. There's like they've had 3 blowout losses.
Yeah. It's, look, Pittsburgh, they're an interesting team, right? Because they're a great team, obviously. They're full of talent. They won the Cup 2 years in a row. It's hard to stay motivated. You know, it's hard to stay on top. First of all, everyone's gunning for you. Second of all, you know, they probably have this feeling like, yeah, we can turn it on and off whenever we want. But the danger is that they wait so long to really get their game going that it's too late. You know, they have to make sure that they're in the playoffs, because right now they're just barely there, right?
They're not in a playoff spot right now. No,
They're not. They're just
but
they're
they're
just
very
on the
close.
edge.
They're very close. The truth is, they're playing with house money. They've won 2 cups in a row. It doesn't matter what they do this year or next year.
Hi there, Skip and Josh will be right back. To get in touch with them, you can send them an email to skipandjoshshow@gmail.com. You can follow them on Twitter @skipandjosh, and you can visit their website at www.skipandjosh.com. And now, back to the show.
Last week, our episode was called Homework because
Yes.
I gave you homework that stressed you out.
It didn't really stress me out, but I was up late.
I just want to give you an update on a couple of homework items that you gave me.
Yes.
On reading the Jonah Carey Up, Up, and Away.
Yes.
I'm not doing too well.
Okay.
Actually haven't started.
Okay, well, we can't review it until you finish it.
Yeah, well, I'll probably finish it in time for next baseball season.
Okay.
So we can go from there. And the other homework that you gave me, sort of indirectly, was to watch the Tragically Hip Long Time Running movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which I saw at the theater.
So, you saw it in the theater?
Yeah.
Where was that? Oh, it was during the film festival.
No, it was actually right after the film festival. It played in regular theaters for a week or two.
Right.
Um,
Very nice.
so-
Very
so,
nice. It must be great in the theater because the sound and everything, right?
It was very good. It wasn't very full. I was surprised, but yeah.
So I actually did watch it on Thursday.
I've seen so much promotion for this movie or documentary.
Well, because
or whatever.
they're replaying, it's airing again, right, on CTV. So they're
Well, I
hyping
think
it.
it's on Crave TV now. You can watch it on demand.
Well, anytime you watch TSN or any Bell Media station, which is basically TSN, the ads for Crave TV never stop.
They don't stop.
Never stop. And actually, I don't even know what the hell Crave TV is, to be
Well,
honest.
it's just like Netflix.
Yeah, but it's like a Bell thing, right?
Yeah.
It's owned by Bell. So I did watch the movie, and I enjoyed it. I quite enjoyed it. Although it's really quite, like, grim. Like, for the first, 20 minutes, it's like, man, I didn't know that the movie was going to be all about, his diagnosis, and it's, super sad, and it's really, dark and grim, it's depressing, and then once they start getting out on tour, it's like, okay, things pick up. I was expecting more of a tribute to the Hip, but it's really quite sad, actually.
I like the way they did it, actually. I like
well
that they
done,
take you back to months before the tour even started.
Yeah, for sure. The part I loved was before the last concert in Kingston, showing all the places that were showing the concert outside and everything.
That was very cool.
Fans watching it all over the place. And then they just interviewed a bunch of fans about what the Hip means to them and stories and everything. And I was like, that was us. That was us with those guys from the Semi-Intellectual Musings. That was us on their show talking about the Hip, concerts we went to, things we heard, things we saw, favorite songs, it's pretty cool,
I went to one of the last shows, one of the Toronto shows, and they had this this booth set up outside the ACC where you could any fan could go and sit in front of the camera and tell a story. I mean, the story would be a minute or less. You're not going to sit there for 10 minutes.
Right.
And I went and I told, I don't know how long I sat there for, 30 seconds, 60 seconds. And I told the story of the first time I ever saw them in a small venue in Montreal at the Spectrum. I'm sure hundreds, if not thousands of people went in that booth and told their story.
Right.
Yet I don't recall seeing any of that in this documentary.
I don't recall seeing any of it at all.
Yeah,
Actually, they interviewed people, but it was on the street. It wasn't in that booth.
Yeah,
right?
So I don't know if that booth was for something else. I don't know what it was for.
You never know. Maybe they planned to use it. They didn't like what they had, or they went in a different direction, or maybe it's going to be used for something else. Who knows? So I actually watched some interesting sports yesterday that I don't always watch. Mm-hmm. I watched the football game, Miami versus Pittsburgh College.
When I heard the outcome of that game, I was stunned.
Yeah, it was amazing. Pittsburgh, they started this quarterback. He's a freshman. It was his first ever start.
Oh my God.
And he's playing against, the undefeated Hurricanes. Although it was in Pittsburgh, so there's an advantage there. Mm-hmm. He played amazing. Did everything they asked him to. And then Miami, like, is there anything more annoying in all of sports right now than that goddamn turnover chain? I hate it so much.
There are some people who hate it. There's some people who love it.
Look, if you're a fan of the Hurricanes, obviously you love it, right? If you're a fan of... look, the Hurricanes have more NFL players that became stars than any other college, probably.
Right.
You know, just off the top of my head, without even researching it.
Well, Michael Irvin, right?
Michael Irvin, Ed Reed, Warren Sapp. Like, there's a litany of quarterbacks, right? Like, if you're a Cowboys fan and you like Michael Irvin, you probably like the Hurricanes too, right? Or if you're a Tampa Bay fan and you liked Warren Sapp, then you probably like them too. But, like, oh God, I hate them so much. It's so annoying, that turnover chain. Notre Dame played Miami like a few weeks ago. It was like, the most hyped game of the year so far, basically. And Notre Dame didn't show up, and Miami rolled right over them. And I texted you during the game. I was like, what the hell is this? Like, how could Notre Dame think they're, like, in contention? They don't even look like they're in the same league as Miami. And then Pittsburgh, coming into the game 4-7 yesterday. Can't even win in their own conference. And Miami couldn't move the ball. They actually took out their quarterback, Miami, because he couldn't do anything.
Well, they're in trouble now.
They are, because they're playing Clemson in the final game of the season, which is for the ACC championship. And now if they lose, they're not going to be in the top 4 for sure.
No.
If they win, they'll be in, because beating Clemson will be the bigger statement, and it'll knock Clemson out probably.
Probably, yes.
But what's scary for them is that I think Pittsburgh showed Clemson now how to beat them. They gave them the blueprint about how to beat Miami, which is exactly what Pittsburgh did, which was like, They just locked down the running game completely. They said no more running, and that's it.
Well, it's easier said than
throw.
done.
He can't throw, the quarterback. All he does is scramble. He's not a good enough passer, that guy Rozier. So I think it should be interesting. And then, of course, there's a huge game today, which I may watch even.
Auburn and Alabama?
The Iron Bowl. If anybody's going to beat Alabama, it's going to be Auburn.
Auburn's going to win the football game! Auburn's going to win the football game!
I hope they do, because I can't stand Alabama.
And Auburn quietly had a very, very good end of the year. They're actually 6th right now in the playoff standings.
Right.
A win over Alabama will put them in. A win, if they win, man, it's gonna screw things up like crazy.
The problem is, I want Wisconsin. If they remain undefeated, I want them to be in the playoff, but they're not going to be.
It's hard for them because they're not playing anybody good.
You see, but is that their fault? Like you always say to me, you have to beat the teams that you play. You have to beat the teams that are in front of you. Like,
but
they can't really. There's only a certain amount of games that they can control in their schedule. Only their non-conference games. Their conference games are their conference games.
What if there's a team in Division 1? You know how many schools there are in Division 1? There's like 300 schools. Right. So what if there's like Eastern Wichita Agriculture College? Mm-hmm. They're in Division 1. I just made up a school. And they go 11-0. Well, do you think they should be in the top 4? They probably haven't played anybody. They've played only teams that are ranked in the 300s.
Wisconsin is playing in the Big Ten all season long.
I know, but...
they're going to have to beat probably Ohio State. I mean, in the Big Ten championship. If they don't go undefeated, then forget what I'm saying.
Well, if they lose to Ohio State, they're done. But if they beat them, they should make it in the top 4. I think that should solidify them. You don't think they'll make it, though?
I don't think so, because right now they're out. And listen, I know very little about this. But from what I've heard, if Auburn beats Alabama, both Auburn and Alabama are both going to be in. So that's
if
2 spots right there.
If Auburn beats Alabama, it's a big problem because they're not going to take Alabama out with their one loss.
Exactly.
And Auburn's going to be in with
so
their
that
victory.
only leaves 2 more spots. One of them is going to be the winner of the Clemson-Miami game.
Right.
Which only leaves 1 more spot, and that's going to either be Oklahoma or Wisconsin. And everyone thinks that Oklahoma had a tougher schedule, which maybe they did.
It's funny. My son follows this now a little bit. And he's like, I don't understand this stupid system of 4 teams in the playoffs. It's like so stupid.
It is.
I said, Matthew, this is only like been the last like 5 years they've had this, or 7 years or whatever it is. I said, my whole life, the national championship was decided by the poll,
which was even stupider.
It was terrible.
It's still a bad system, by the way, because it's all based on the people in the room. What are there, 13 people that vote on this on a weekly basis? It's just based on their opinion. what other sport do you know where it's based on somebody's opinion?
Yeah. This is true. So do you think they'll ever expand to like an 8-team playoff?
100% they will.
But then don't you think that, like, right now the debate, we're talking about Wisconsin and Oklahoma, 4 or 5.
Yes.
So don't you think it's just going to be like we're going to be talking about, Georgia and Tennessee, 8-9 or whatever?
Absolutely we will. Just like in March Madness, we talk about number 68 that makes it and number 69 that doesn't. We talk about that too. The difference between 4 and 8, though, having 4 teams or 8 teams.
Yeah.
So if you leave out the 9th team that you think, they should have been in.
Yeah.
Chances are they weren't going to win it all anyway. Like the 69th team in the basketball tournament, maybe they deserve to be in the tournament, but they probably weren't going to win it all anyway.
Right.
So at least you have a bigger margin for error when you're selecting 8 teams as opposed to 4.
I want to tell you my favorite thing about college football.
Go.
Last week, Alabama played Mercer.
Yeah,
which is absurd to start with.
Thank you for mentioning that, because you were talking about like these Wisconsin's easy schedule. Yeah. Mercer, come on, like
they should they should actually be penalized for having Mercer on their schedule.
Didn't Duke lose to Mercer one year in basketball?
Yeah,
very embarrassing.
So the thing that I like about Alabama playing Mercer is you look at the spreads the day before the game. So Alabama was favored by 48.
Did they cover?
Yes. They were favored by 48, and they won 56-0.
That's crazy.
So, and there was other crazy spreads also.
That same week, there was another team that had an easy game. I forget.
Clemson played Citadel.
Right.
They were also favored by 40-something. They won 61-3.
So they covered also.
It's just
how do you even
madness.
Create a spread for a game like that?
I don't know. Like, it's how do you, right? 48.
By the way, I want you to know I got all 3 games right on Thursday in the NFL.
I'm not doing good in our picks. I'm like, I can't even look at those picks. I'm so bad.
Next year, I may actually bet real money on these things.
I think you should. You could do a better job. You're doing a better job than Chuck Todd is on Tony Kornheiser's show picking the games, right?
Yes, I am.
Yeah,
for sure. I'm above 500, easily above 500, not even close.
Not even close.
Like I'm above 500.
And you're picking every game. Chuck Todd just comes in and picks like 3 games, right?
Right. And then maybe they give him the hardest game. He picks 7 games a week, and maybe they give him like the 7 hardest games, whatever.
The Skip and Josh podcast is back.
Do you want to talk a little bit about the Baseball Hall of Fame or not even?
We can.
It's funny because I'm on Twitter all week, and all I hear about is this Joe Morgan letter. I don't even know what it is. And then before we started, I was asking you, what is this letter? And then you explained it to me. I was like, oh, okay.
He wrote a letter to no one in particular, to all the voters, the 300 some odd voters, like urging them not to vote for players who were suspected of using performance-enhancing drugs during their careers because it makes the existing Hall of Famers look worse.
But the thing that's so weird about the letter is that's what the voters are doing. They are not voting.
Some voters have decided...
Barry Bonds is not in. Clemens is not in. Clemens is the best pitcher of all time. He's not in. Bonds is the best hitter of all time. He's not in. So they're doing that already, no?
But some voters have decided that they're ignoring the performance-enhancing drug thing. And if the player was great, they're voting him in. Because the truth is... First of all, we don't even know all the players that did it. Some names came out in that report, whatever it was, 10, 15 years ago or something. But not every player's name that actually did drugs is in that report, first of all.
No, of course. We only know
players that we don't know. And furthermore, no one can tell me or you or anybody that because he used drugs, that added 10 home runs to his stats every season. Or maybe it only added 1 home run to his stats every season. You have no idea.
You don't know for sure. Yeah, you don't know for sure. And then what if the pitchers were taking stuff? Wouldn't that give them an advantage? So if you had a pitcher who's all juiced up against Bonds who's all juiced up,
then it's a fair fight.
Yeah, it's a fair fight, right?
Yeah.
Look, you always said that it should make a difference. People should go in.
And then there's others who have they have a theory that put them in and put an asterisk or mention like this era, whatever,
Yeah.
1980 what to 1990
let history judge, right?
Yeah, and then people who visit the Hall of Fame can judge for themselves whether they think that guy deserves to be in there or not.
The crazy thing is that I find with the voting is that, it's no coincidence that Bonds and Clemens are the ones that are getting singled out, right?
No, it's not.
Because the press hated, all the writers hated them in the first place. So it's very easy
to hate.
It's very easy. They are easy to hate, but it's very easy to say, I'm not voting for them now. Whereas, Ken Griffey Jr., everybody loved him. He's in the Hall of Fame, right? I don't know what he did or what he didn't do. I just think, because it's the baseball writers that are voting, there's a lot of grudges there and there's a lot of personal stuff, right? I just think it's mental.
No,
but,
you're absolutely right.
I was thinking about something this week about the Baseball Hall of Fame and the Hockey Hall of Fame. There's so much stuff on Twitter about like the Hall of Fame, who should be in, who shouldn't be in, and people expressing opinions and everything. And like when it came down to the Hockey Hall of Fame, we got nothing. We didn't even know that it was happening, right?
Yeah.
And it's the whole thing it comes down to is that the Baseball Hall of Fame is actually voted by the writers, which is bad for what I just said, because there's a lot of personal grudges and different things that go on. But it's good in the fact that it actually promotes the Hall of Fame. It promotes what's going on. It lets fans know. It starts a conversation. Whereas the Hockey Hall of Fame, it's like this secret society.
It's not hockey writers that vote?
I don't know. It used to be like a committee, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure who votes.
I feel it's like they're in some kind of sealed room. You know what? You know where the vote takes place for the Hockey Hall of Fame? FBI headquarters, in that vault room in the Americans. They close the door to seal off the sound, where they go in to make sure no one could hear.
What happens if the mail bot happens to be moving by that room as they're talking about it?
That's the only way they could find out what's going on in there. It's completely secret. No one knows. After they come out of the vote, they have to shred all the papers, wipe their phones. It's top secret, the Hockey Hall of Fame vote. It's quite crazy.
This year, by the way, is the first time that the Baseball Hall of Fame, each writer, his or her votes are going to be disclosed to the public.
Well, that's about time, because there's a lot of stupidity that goes on.
Yeah. So you'll know who voted for who and who didn't vote for who.
Yeah, good. I mean, it should be like that, because it might scare people into, it might shame people into actually, taking the time to think about what they're doing, right?
By the way, we never talked about the end of season baseball awards were announced weeks ago.
Oh, you want to go for it?
We never talked about it, and I'm just pulling up our fearless predictions that we did months ago.
Oh my God, great!
Because we so now we can see how terribly wrong we were with everything.
Great, let's do it. I can't wait to do this.
So, well, I'll go in the order that it is on my screen.
Okay.
American League MVP was Jose Altuve.
Yeah.
And what did we say? We said you had Jose Altuve.
Yes, I did.
And I had Carlos Correa.
I told you from the beginning of the year that Altuve was going to hit for an insanely high batting average, and that the Astros were going to be a really good team, and that he'd win the MVP, and that's what happened.
So you got that one right. NL MVP was Stanton.
Yeah.
You had Anthony Rizzo. I had Nolan Arenado. We were both wrong.
Yeah, you were closer, though, because Rizzo had a bad year. Arenado
had a good year.
Was right there, actually. Yeah.
So American League Cy Young was Corey Kluber.
Mm-hmm. No one had him.
You had Yu Darvish.
You didn't even have a good year, and he got traded.
Okay, mine was worse. I had Danny Duffy.
I remember when you picked Danny Duffy. I was like, what the hell is that? He's not even good.
I must have been on drugs that day.
He's not even good. And oh man. And then their National
League Cy Young was Max Scherzer. You had Kershaw, so right there. Yeah. And I had Noah Syndergaard.
Oh, I mean Syndergaard's great, but he can't stay healthy, right? Rookie
then
of the
we
year.
Go to Rookie of the year. This is the last award that we actually predicted. We didn't do manager.
My guys didn't play.
So Rookie of the year was Aaron Judge and Cody Bellinger.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure neither of us had that.
No.
So AL Rookie, you had Andrew Benintendi. He played a whole season.
Yeah, he was solid.
Yeah. I had Yohan
But he didn't hit 50 home runs like Judge, right? So.
I had Yohan Moncada, who I think, wasn't he only called up in August or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was way off. And then NL Rookie, You had Ozzy Albies. I don't know what he's doing these days. Is he maybe a shoe salesman somewhere in
He got called up at the end of the year,
Scranton?
but he didn't do anything. Yeah.
and my NL rookie, not much better, Hunter Renfroe,
Oh boy.
who I think he played most of the season in the majors, I think.
Yeah, I think he did. He just didn't do much.
Just didn't do much. So of all that, you were the only one to have one out of all those correct, the Jose Altuve one.
So that's all I got. I'm gonna watch that Auburn game today, and I'm gonna go watch the big game this morning, Chelsea versus Liverpool.
Is that, I thought that was on like earlier. Don't they play like really early in the morning?
The games are all on at 10 today, but that game's on at 12:30.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Must be late over there.
So just to let the fans know, I'm a huge Premier League fan. By the way, do you ever see the Premier League commercial on TSN?
I don't think I have.
It's this montage with this really great song, and they show all these amazing highlights. If you watch that commercial, you'll definitely want to watch because it makes it look so good. It makes it look so epic. It's amazing.
Okay.
Very well done by TSN.
We didn't talk about Italy not making it to the World Cup.
We'll have to do an all soccer episode. We'll have a soccer expert on.
Yeah,
I
by
know
the
you're
way,
working on that.
Speaking of soccer, so TFC, they tied their first game in this Columbus series. Is it Columbus they're playing?
Yeah.
0-0. So now they have to play game 2
Yeah.
in Toronto next week.
Yeah.
What happens if that game ends 0-0?
They go to penalty kicks.
And then it just whoever gets more, or does Toronto have to score more than
No.
Columbus?
If the game ends and the extra time ends at 0-0, then they'll just go to penalty kicks and decide the
Right,
series.
but isn't a road goal worth more than a home goal?
Well, yes. So, for instance, if it would end in a 1-1 tie, Columbus would advance. Yeah. So Columbus has the slight advantage is in that they can advance with a 1-1 tie, but a 0-0 is not going to
Right, or a 2-2 tie, any tie.
Yeah, any tie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I guess it's TFC fever in Toronto, right?
Yeah, there was actually I went to the Argonauts football game last weekend.
Oh boy, yeah. Wow.
And as I'm driving on the highway, on one of the overpasses, someone had put this huge sign up there. Like I don't know if they did it on their bed sheets or whatever. It was huge. And in red letters, in red caps letters, it said, "No Argos at BMO Field." Because the soccer fans hate the football fans and hate the football team. Like you have no idea.
It's a big rivalry there, right?
Yes.
But they share the stadium, right?
Reluctantly.
Reluctantly.
Yes.
The soccer fans are not happy. They
Not
don't want
at all.
No, they don't want the football players chewing up their fields.
Exactly. They're very upset. I'm serious.
We're going to call it it's the turf. It's literally a turf war.
Well, actually, it's natural grass.
Yeah, okay. There
So.
you go. So before we sign off, remember you can listen and subscribe to new and archived episodes of the Skip and Josh podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play, or the podcast app of your choice. I love an app called Overcast. If you listen to the show through Apple Podcasts, leave us a review. 5 stars, please. We would love to hear from you via email, skipandjoshshow@gmail.com, via Twitter @skipandjosh, or by liking and following our Facebook page, where you can also leave us a 5-star review of our show. And as always, you can get all the links on our website, skipandjosh.com.
Have a great week.
Yeah, bye.
The Skip and Josh podcast is over now. Don't worry, there'll be another episode soon.